Yo, check. What's happening? What's happening? Listen, man. Everybody's talking. Everybody has something to say. Everybody is chiming in, giving their 2 cents. And the thing that I don't like is that a lot of people have ulterior motives. A lot of people are being paid to muddy the waters, to change the narrative, subterfuge, hoodwinked, bamboozle, sleight of hand the audience. And I'm going to tell you this right now. The one thing about all of this with the whole Jayz NFL Kaepernick fiasco, JD got added in there as well too. If you want to add in Dame Dash, it's up to you as well. The one thing that I take from this, if anything, is that when black people want, or let me rephrase this, when black people want to air out grievances and their differences, white media will give them a platform like it's no tomorrow, won't they? When you have something negative to say about another black man, you will be given the platform. Heaven forbid you say anything positive. Heaven forbid you say anything, to reassure your fellow black men. Heaven forbid you say anything to commend your fellow black men. You won't get the platform then. You won't get primetime news. But if you got something bad to say, something stupid to say, something ignorant to say, come on over. We got 15 minutes for you. I just want to bring up some tomfoolery. When you look at the Jayz Roc Nation press conference, it's not really a normal press conference. Usually you put it out there, all the media, news stations come, they're able to ask questions, they're independent from the source, and they're able to ask questions that they would like to ask that are not technically rehearsed, and it's an open forum for the source to give the information and give a message or present a narrative for news stations to then feed to us. But what people don't realize that news stations, they've been pretty much X'd out of the situation where they're no longer the middlemen. It used to be the news, the journalists used to present stories. They would do an investigative articles and exposés, and they will provide information to us, the general public. But what's happened probably since I'd say maybe 20 years, 15 years, news stations are pretty much the last to know, because what's happened now, they're no longer proactive in their stories and their investigative reports. They're now reactive, where the source gives the information to social media and then news stations report on it to us. Okay, they no longer are the ones who are in charge of what news gets presented. They are now following the ambulance, just like a lawyer would follow an ambulance to make money. Okay, ambulance chasers. Okay, news stations are now social media chasers. Okay, and the one thing about that Roc Nation press conference is that it was by invite only. Okay, but by invite only, and the cameras, the audio, the venue was all controlled by Roc Nation. Okay, so this is more of a marketing and advertising. It was advertisement. It's really an ad more than it is a press conference, which is more on the objective side of it. This is more subjective and more controlling the narrative from Jayz. The images are also from Roc Nation, courtesy of Roc Nation, so they controlled everything. So keep this in mind when you see those photographs of Roger Goodell and Jayz smiling and chumming it up. That's the image that they want to present to you. Okay? The question is why? Okay, now the other thing you have to keep in mind is that there's other stories coming out. You have TMZ, who was another questionable organization, and how they get their news before anyone else. They went from a tabloid to now on the level of AMP as far as the ones who break news or break stories. And you have to wonder, how does TMZ, which apparently has a good track record because they pay their sources, so to speak, how is it that they got this story wrong that Jayz is now going to receive an NFL team? How did that come about? How did that get into the news? Where did they get that information from? Who leaked it? Who did they pay for that story? Okay, all these questions you have to ask yourself. How does that end up in the news? And then, what was it? A week later, it was found out that that's false? So, who put that narrative out there? Okay, who put that narrative out there, and who was it more advantageous to have that story out there? It seemed like it worked in Jayz's favor because everyone was saying, well, we could look past this if Jayz is not going to have a seat at the table and have an NFL team. Okay, that's a welcoming price to pay. But at the same time, if you know anything about purchases and ownership of NFL teams or any sports teams, you're not given a team. You're not given an NFL team. You have to purchase an NFL team. And in order to purchase an NFL team, there has to be a bid going on. If you guys recall when that racist old white guy lost the Los Angeles Clippers and he had to sell, it wasn't just given to anybody. There was a bidding war, like a lottery. Everybody put in their bids, and a particular buyer or new owner was chosen based on the bids that were provided. It's not given. Okay, this deal cannot get Jayz a football team. And you have to ask yourself, notice when that report came out, did it ever mention which football team? It was very generic, a football team. But which one? Which owner is going to give up majority stake in an NFL team that makes millions of dollars yearly, like clockwork? Which NFL owner is going to give up minority ownership to a Jayz? Sports teams are bought, okay? They're not given. So that story should have been a red flag from the start that this is a story put out there to control a narrative, okay? So there's a lot of sleight of hand, a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of shit that doesn't make any sense, but the public is buying it, and we're being pushed whichever way by the media. And it's very interesting to see who runs with certain stories, who uses certain stories to present a point, and they come across as if it's factual. And really, we have no idea what's going on. Another thing that we have no idea about is this deal. Because from what they have in the press conference is that Jayz and NFL have a partnership where Jayz is going to be in control of the music department on what acts are performing in Super Bowls, halftime shows, and NFL is also working with Jayz's Inspire Change initiative. All these buzzwords to make it sound great. But at the end of the day, can you please tell me how putting acts in Super Bowls, how that inspires change, and how that actually turns into actionable items? Now, the one thing that I could tell you, a lot of it that their suggestion, it sounds like they want to make people aware, and through awareness creates change. But didn't Jayz say that we are done with kneeling? Didn't Jayz say that we're past that? So then, if we're past that, why are we going back to it? Because to me, I don't see the difference between kneeling and the whole protest and speaking about inequalities through your music. The whole purpose is awareness, is to bring about awareness. Okay, because I'll tell you this, Not one rapper has ever changed legislation from a song. They might inspire change, they might shed light on certain issues, but they can't solely take credit for creating legislation. The one thing that you have to do is get people who actually are in the power of making these changes and get them involved. So we're talking about politicians, we're talking about lawyers, we're talking about people in the know as far as creating bills, we're talking about lobbyists. Those are the people that we need to get involved, not entertainers, not actors, and definitely not the NFL at halftime shows. On the flip side, Colin Kaepernick, his story is done, if you ask me. You know, he did the protest. He opted out of his contract. He wanted to get another contract and I guess become a starter for another team. That didn't happen, or they didn't offer enough money. But he did get offers. Okay, he did get tryouts with Seahawks, the Broncos, the Ravens. But a lot of deals fell by the wayside due to his own doing or the people in his camp's doing. Okay, and he files a lawsuit for collusion. Yeah, maybe rightfully so. If the NFL was transpiring against him, then that is something that should be brought to court and they should be sued and let it all unveil in court on public display so everyone knows and is able to prove it. That didn't happen. What ended up happening is that he settled, meaning that the NFL doesn't have to admit to any wrongdoing. They pay an amount to settle it, an NDA is signed, and now Colin Kaepernick can no longer speak. Okay, and apparently he never told anybody of this. He kept this to himself. They put out a false report about him getting hundreds of millions. Meanwhile, it came out later on that it was a settlement of 10 million, and that was shared between him and Eric Reid. Now, Eric Reid goes back into the NFL, the same employer that they were saying, has discriminatory practices against them and were blackballing them. He's back on the team. He's playing football again. Okay, then you have Colin Kaepernick putting out tweets saying, "I'm ready." Listen, you guys were against an entity, a corporation, okay, for the practices. You got your money. You got your Nike deal. You're the richest revolutionary I ever known. You are the most corporate martyr I've ever seen. And you want more. You want your cake and eat it too. You want to go back into the league and play again, starting on a team. To me, that's crazy. Listen, this is called sacrifice. Jim Brown already said it. You cannot be a pro athlete and also an activist. You have to pick one. And people crucify them, but what he meant is that you can't be begging. You can't be looking to protest from the same employer that you want a check from. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so with all that transpired and him no longer speaking up on police brutality and all the things that have been happening as of late as far as police brutality, it makes you wonder what's really become of this movement, because it's no longer about police brutality. It's all about him getting a cush job. So I can understand why Jayz came in and got this particular deal, because Colin Kaepernick left the door open for these things to happen. And I think it's very important that people understand that whenever there's a vacuum that's created, like there was here with him taking the NDA, pretty much leaves the movement by the wayside and leaving the door open for someone to come in and pretty much take it over. So it's not Jay-Z's fault. It's really Colin Kaepernick's fault as to why there was a void and someone stepped in it. Okay, so for football players to, call Jay names, disparage Jay, I think that's disingenuous, especially when they are playing for the same employer that they are criticizing Jay for working with. It doesn't make any sense, okay? The way how I look at it, at least Jay-Z stood tall and took all of the lumps and shots. He's not hiding behind people, okay? So I have to respect that part of it. I don't respect what Colin Kaepernick did, because instead of him exposing the NFL, because he had the opportunity to do so, instead of him exposing the NFL and their practices, he decided to take the settlement and shut up, and now he wants to go back to becoming a good employee for the same company that he had grievances against. I think that is problematic. I think that is an issue that no one wants to point out. But again, I'm not going to discredit anything that neither of those guys have done. I'm going to look at it from the outside looking in. I'm going to sit back, still live my life the way I need to live it, still do what I need to do, and keep it a buck and just work that way. Okay, so we have to start looking at the details and pretty much putting pieces together and realizing that a lot of this doesn't really make any sense. However, let's wait for the eggs to hatch before we start counting, what's happening, before we start jumping to conclusions. One thing I will say is that Jay-Z has done enough for us to at least reserve some judgment and wait. Okay, when I say he's done enough for us, I don't mean as he is our leader. I mean that Jay-Z has done certain things to assist people who are disadvantaged. For me to say, maybe he's not all about the money. Okay, maybe he could be both, because we all know this is going to be advantageous for Jay as far as his pockets. Okay, he is a business. I don't ever get that confused. This is a business move for him. It's also not about the money for him. It's also about the power, okay, that he is going to wield with this. Okay, so all of this we have to take in consideration. I'm not going to bash a fellow black man on a public platform. I'm not going to take this time to say I told you so like many other people are doing. This is more of look at the particulars. Does it make sense? Does it match the message with the actions? What is progress and how can it be measured? Okay, these are things that we have to look at. These are things that are most important, and these are the things that if we focus on, we cannot be led astray. We cannot be hoodwinked, bamboozled, be victims of sleight of hand, and be put in a sunken place, so to speak. Okay, so let's take a step back. Jay-Z is one man, and he is a man, not a deity. He is not someone we could be looking at as a leader. He is a public figure, but he's not someone that I look at and try to shape my life to become. Okay, I know who he is based on what he's told me, based on the actions that he's shown, and I will leave it at that. Okay, let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. Look at it from an objective position, and let's not go about this on an emotional rant. Let's not cancel people who have done things to the betterment of people. Let's look at this from the standpoint of who is playing who, what is the end game. Money can't buy power. Okay, power is something that you have to kind of finesse. There's no amount that you could purchase. Okay, and you're gonna start realizing this if you ever get money. You're gonna realize that if you have to buy something, the person who holds the item that you're trying to buy determines what price is going to be sold, or they could determine that they don't want to sell it to you. Okay, Cam Newton showed you that when he tried to buy a first class ticket to have more space, and he was willing to give $1,000, and the man said no. Okay, so money means nothing. Okay, it's really all about power. Do I hold all the cards? Okay, and you have to understand certain organizations. You have NFL, you have certain other people who are behind the scenes. They don't have the money, they hold the power. And it's the power that's something that you can't purchase. You have to find your way to obtain through different means, through different channels. And maybe that's what Jayz is doing, who knows. But I think it's something that we have to look at and wait and find out what's going to come of all this. But in the meantime, live your best life. Stay positive. Stay away from negativity. Don't get baited into making disparaging comments about your fellow man in public. let's again wait, see what comes of this deal. We have no idea the particulars of the deal. Hopefully that'll come out in the near future. But until then, give Jay the benefit of the doubt. He has earned that much at the very least, and we'll go from there. Like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. This is the Part of My Presence YouTube channel. We out. Peace.